We have all these folders in my codes, which is our working space. As you already know, we can access this directory directly in the terminal from here. Confirming this directory with the pwd command, you can see that it is the my codes directory, which is where we are working. You can check the list of items there with ls. You can see that they are the same as what we saw in the GUI. But I don't like using this method of accessing the terminal because the font here is not visually appealing compared to accessing it through the Ubuntu app. So let's access our working directory through the Ubuntu app. Now we are in my codes directory. These are the items we have there. Let's go into the learn directory with the cd command. You can see that the last word before the $sign is now learn. We are now in the learn directory. To confirm that, let's print the working directory using pwd. Now you can see that the last word of the path is learn, which confirms that we are currently in the learn directory. Learn is now our working directory, while my codes has now become the parent directory. Let me explain the parent directory in the GUI. You can see here that the folder we are currently in is my codes, and you can also see that the word my codes is the last item in the path at the top. Now let's open one folder to see how it changes the path at the top. You can see that when we open the learn folder, the word learn was added to the existing path at the top. Now my codes has become the parent folder. If you want to go back to the parent folder in the GUI, we simply click on this back icon. You can see that we are now back to my codes. Now my code is the current working directory. Now the question arises, how can we go back to the parent directory in the terminal? To do that, it is very simple. The command is cd space dot dot. Now we are back to my codes. Confirming the path with pwd, you can see that we are in my codes directory. cd space dot dot is the command used for going back to the parent directory, just like clicking on the back icon in the GUI. So far, everything we've been creating are directories. We haven't created files yet. In computers, everything you store is called item. The items can either be a directory or a file. Do not forget that directory is also called folder in GUI, while files are called files in both GUI and terminal. Files can be music, pictures, videos, PDF files, or document files. Directories or folder are containers where you put your files to organize them. You can also create another folder inside a folder. In other words, you can create a directory inside another directory. We already know how to create the directory using the mkdir command. Now, how can we create a document file in the terminal? There are different ways of doing this, but the most basic one is by using the echo command. You write echo followed by the content of what to write inside quotation marks. Then you write a greater than sign followed by the name you want to give the file. Let me name the file my file and give it a .txt extension. You can see that I didn't give space between my and file because in programming we don't use spaces in naming things. You either use underscore to separate the words or use capital letters. Now that we've pressed enter, the file has been created. But to confirm it, let's list the content of our working directory using the ls command. You can see that we now have myfile.txt here. If we go and check the GUI, you can see that we also have my file here. This shows that everything we do in the terminal reflects automatically in the GUI. If we open the file in the GUI, it opens with Notepad. You can see the hello world that we wrote in the terminal there. In programming terms, opening a file to view its contents is called reading. So if I say you should read a file, I mean you should open the file. Here in the GUI, we used Notepad to read the file. What we did in the terminal using echo to create a file can also be done in the GUI. Right click your mouse, choose new, then click on text document. Then you give it a name. Let's name it file from GUI. If you are attentive enough, you will realize that I didn't include the .txt extension when creating the file in the GUI. But when I checked it in the terminal, the .txt was added automatically. We now have file from GUI.txt. The reason is that in the GUI, you don't need to worry about the extension. The system takes care of it for you. That is one of the things that makes the GUI user-friendly. To prove that the system added the .txt extension automatically, let's check the properties of that file in the GUI. You can see the .txt here. Let's go to details to see more. You can see the name file from GUI.txt. The .txt is visible here in the property, but inside File Explorer, you can't see it because the system assumes that the user does not need to see it. Now, you've learned that in the GUI, we don't usually add the .txt extension because the system adds it automatically. But in the terminal, the system will not add it for you. You need to include the .txt extension yourself while naming the file. Now let's open the file and write some things there in the GUI. Save and close it. Whenever you want to read it, you simply open it again with Notepad, just like this. Going back to the terminal, before we move on, I want you to observe the color differences between directories and files. In terminal, directories are always in blue color, while files are always in white color. That is how you differentiate between directories and files. You already know that if you want to go into a directory, or let's say open a directory, which are the blue ones, you use the cd command. Now the question arises, how will you open files in terminal? I mean the ones with white color. To open a file in the terminal, you use the cat command followed by the name of the file. Let's open my file.txt with cat. You can see that it gives us hello world, which is the content we wrote there. Let's open file from GUI.txt with cat. You can see its content here, but notice that it does not give a new line at the end, so it is not displaying very well. Let's go and add a new line at the end of the text in the GUI. Save and exit. Then let's open again in the terminal to see how it looks. You can now see that it is displaying properly. That is the power of adding a new line at the end of the text. Let's create another file with echo. Let's name it happy.txt. After using ls to check the content of the working directory, you can see that the happy.txt has been created. Let's read the file with cat. You can see that it shows the content we wrote there. Note, in terminal, we don't usually use the word open for file. The proper terminology is read. So instead of saying open a file, I will be saying read a file. So the command used to read a file is cat. The phrase open a file is mostly used in the GUI. Let's create another file and write some sentences there. Let's name it africa.txt. You can see that the file has been created. Using cat to read the file, you can see the content here. Now, let's open it in the GUI with Notepad and see how it appears there. You can see that the sentences appear exactly as we wrote them in the terminal. Now let's assume we want each sentence to appear on a different line. In the GUI, we can simply do it like this. Let's go and check if it reflects in the terminal. You can see that it now looks nicer. This is more beautiful and organized than having all the sentences on a single line. So how can we do this in the terminal? To write your sentences on separate lines in the terminal, you need to use echo space minus e, then open quotation marks and write the content of your file there. After each sentence where you want a new line, you write \n before starting the next sentence. Let's name the file ubuntu.txt. Let's check if the file has been created using ls command. You can see it here. Now, let's read the file with cat to see how it appears. You can now see that each sentence is displayed on different line. Let's go and check how it looks in the GUI. You can see that it looks nice. But at the beginning of the second line and also the third line, can you see the empty spaces there? Those empty spaces make it look untidy. You can also see those empty lines in the terminal. This happened because after writing \n, I added a space before starting the next sentence. I was not supposed to include the space. What I should have done was to start the next sentence immediately after \n. Now, let's create another file and write the sentences properly without leaving empty space at the beginning of the lines. You can see that I joined the next sentence directly with \n. Let's name the file tech.txt. Now, let's read the file with cat. You can now see that it displays very well. Each sentence is on a different line without empty space at the beginning. This is exactly what we want to achieve. And we are able to do that because we joined \n directly to the following sentence. Now, let's open it in the GUI to see how it looks there. You can see that it is well organized. That is all you need to know about the echo command and the cat command.